Yo, what is up, Brody? Welcome back to another video on the Slightly channel. Today, we are going to be reviewing Boruto Naruto Next Generations, Chapter 66. Now, I've read this chapter 3 times, and I watched a review of it, so I basically know a big breakdown of everything that happens with this chapter. I reread the last chapter to get more context. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm just going to be going over some of the big moments of the chapter, the most important things that I need to talk about. Now, before this video starts, if you have not read the chapter yet or you're not caught up on the Boruto manga, click off this video and go read the Boruto manga, okay? The Boruto manga has been getting really, really good, and this fight that has been happening is one of the best in the series, and I would say it has been rivaling, Naruto and Sasuke versus Jigen, like a very high level fight. So, we are going to get into it. Again, make sure to support the official Viz release first. It's free. You don't have to pay anything for the first, for chapters 65 and 64. They're completely free. So again, make sure to catch up and read them. Now, starting, we get more exposition on how Kawaki got the karma back, and it was implied throughout the previous chapters and through last chapter that it was Amato that put it on, but we get more explanation on how through good old Ada here. Okay, why is it so laggy? So, what happened was when Amato gave Kawaki his new arm, he had already implanted the karma into that. Kawaki just needed to accept that he wanted the karma mentally for it to fully activate and reawaken. And now we get this beautiful shot of Kawaki here with what seems to be a weaker version of Isshiki's Dojutsu. We see it's black and it has that one yellow triangle, whereas Ishiki's had I think 8. So it's a weaker version. We actually see the amount grow and lessen as the chapter progresses. What happens from here is Borushiki, basically Momoshiki, is talking to him, basically saying, like, what do you think you're doing, bro? What is Amato scheming? Like, you ain't gonna do shit to me. You're still getting fed to the Ten Tails. Then, as you can see here, it activates and turns into 4, and it's the signature rod attack that we saw Jigen and Isshiki use a whole bunch. It was basically, one of their main attacks. Borto or Borushiki manages to dodge it, and then we see Kawaki use an attack that he has used before, where he kind of shoots out like his biotech, and Boruto manages to dodge that. And then here we get the cubes returning. Now, one thing I want to point out here: there is 4 cubes in total that we see, and when Isshiki activates his, I believe there's 6 cubes. So I think this is an indication that Kawaki is less experienced with this ability and weaker with this ability than Isshiki and Jigen, or Isshiki, which makes sense considering he just unlocked it and he's only the vessel. He's not the real thing. But Borushiki manages to dodge it. And then we get this interesting dialogue from Code here where he says, is Amato trying to make Kawaki into a second Isshiki? Now, this is very interesting because we know that Amato is kind of sus, bro. Like, he's like the imposter from Among Us. We know he's been up to something in the background, but we don't know exactly what. We know he wanted Isshiki dead, but he has always demonstrated this Kawaki over everyone else. Whenever a bad event would happen, the first thing he would talk about or ask about was Kawaki. And anytime Kawaki was in danger, he would feel kind of stressed about it. So clearly, Amato wanted something with Kawaki himself. So if he's trying to, what I believe, and this is my theory, Amato is trying to make Kawaki into an Isshiki that he can control, because he couldn't control Jigen. He couldn't control him because he was just so much stronger. But using mind games and manipulation, Amato might be able to control Kawaki here. So that is what I think Amato's plan is. Now, Naruto calls out to Kawaki, tells him like what's going on, like just what's happening, and Kawaki kind of gives him this like kind of sassy response here, and then Naruto's like, "How far are you planning to go?" And here's where he says, "I'll do what needs to be done for you." So this is something we know is that Kawaki is definitely he really respects and loves Naruto as a father because he's been the first real kind person in his life. But it's gotten to the point with him where I can't remember who describes it, but I think it was Amato where he said it's almost becoming like an obsession over Naruto. Like he can't live without Naruto, and that's what made him eventually come to this resolve to re-accept that karma was to protect Naruto. And then we see Boruto here. He whips out a Rasengan, and then Kawaki's like, "Nah, bitch," or not Boruto, sorry, Borushiki. And then he says, "Nah, bitch, get that out of here." And then with no hand signs, whips out a fire style jutsu, and then Boruto absorbs that, obviously. And then not Boruto. Why do I keep saying Boruto? Borushiki goes for like a roundhouse kick, and then we see Kawaki shrink. Now this is interesting because as you can tell, he like shrinks to where he's small, but you can still see him on the panel. Whereas when Jigen and Isshiki would shrink, they would be just gone. You wouldn't be able to see them at all. They could shrink down to microscopic levels. Whereas, and this is another example of Kawaki not being yet as experienced with the Dojutsu as Jigen and Isshiki. So then he reappears behind him with the claw arm. Boruto ducks, kicks him up. They're kind of just, they seem, not Boruto again, Borushiki. They seem very relative here. That's the way that the fight is kind of presenting it. They're equally matched. They're landing hits on each other. They're outsmarting each other, absorbing each other's attacks. So I definitely think, this was a prediction I actually had, was that Borushiki is going to be a little bit stronger, but it's going to be a relatively even match because, one, Boruto might take control, which he actually does in this chapter, and two, because Momoshiki's been really reckless with the way he's been fighting. In the last chapter, he whipped out like huge Rasengans, like 4 of them, just blasting them all over the place, and that takes up a lot of chakra. So of course he's going to be a little bit weaker from that. Now he throws some shuriken. Kawaki shrinks them, and then he shoots out more of his like his biotech at him, and then they all like hit together and become kind of like these clumps of where Boruto is, and he's manages to dodge them. And then so Boruto, I keep saying Boruto, that is my bad. Anytime I say Boruto in this context, I am talking about Borushiki. And then Borushiki manages to literally whoosh around and come up to Kawaki. He brings up like a pretty big Rasengan, and then we get this homage here. This is clearly an homage to Naruto vs. Sasuke. You cannot tell me otherwise. Where Naruto is on the right, where Sasuke is on the left. Kawaki is supposed to be the rival parallel to Sasuke. Boruto is obviously the parallel to Naruto here with the Rasengan. It literally is like basically the exact frame, just with these new characters. And I think this is a really cool shot here. Then their collision seems to be very equally matched. They counter each other. So again, another thing showing this whole idea of them being like, super relative. Boruto throws a punch. Kawaki dodges it and then brings up more biotech and like slams Borushiki with his arm. Launches him to the ground and then summons pillars from the other dimension. And again, this is something that we saw Isshiki do a whole lot throughout the time he was fighting. Borushiki manages to dodge them. But then here in this panel, you can see his right eye, or actually in this case, I think it's his left eye, opening up. And that's how we know that Boruto is waking up from within. So Borushiki is Momoshiki in control of Boruto's body. But when his eye opens up, that's when they're kind of both consciously aware and in control of the exact same body. And you can see in the top left panel, that's like Momoshiki like realizing like, oh shit, like he's awake. And then we see Kawaki doing the signature thing that Jigen always does, pegging him full of freaking rods here. Boom. Summons one. Game over, bro. Game over. Look at that shit. He's got 4 of the 8 triangle prongs in there. And then the giant cube is dropping. And this is when Naruto comes in and saves him. And the reason that this is a big deal is because Naruto, he's not supposed to move because Code said, if you move, I'll kill Shikamaru. And he even says here, but forget it, there's no point in killing you now, let's wait and see. So Code is super interested in what's going on here. And then again, we can see Kawaki's eye reverts back to 1 triangle. So it's the type of activation that leads to more triangles in his eye. And that makes me really want even more of this exposition on what Isshiki's Dojutsu actually is. Now this is kind of where the fight stops. So we see Boruto waking up here, and then, Naruto and Kawaki are like arguing back and forth. And this is really emotional, because they built up such a bond over this time. And, Naruto thinks of Kawaki as his own son, but at the end of the day, like he said, don't be ridiculous. He's my son. Then Boruto pushes away Naruto. He's in control of the body now. And we get this internal monologue from Momoshiki where it says he's woken up already. Boruto gets up. That's actually something I just noticed right here. In this panel, Naruto doesn't have the Sage Mode pigmentation around his eyes. That's a drawing error, but it doesn't matter. So now they're arguing with each other, Momoshiki and Boruto, fighting for control. And Boruto says, Amato's meds have worked because he's been able to control Momoshiki's power. So Boruto has actually been holding back Momoshiki's power throughout this fight, which is very interesting. And it's shown here that Boruto, he wants Kawaki to kill him. He says, I came close to killing my own dad. And, they're just having flashbacks of what the promise they made to each other. And I've come to realize today that we're going to have to resort to the last, we're going to have to go through with our last resort plan. And Kawaki says, yeah, unfortunately. So they've talked about this. They have resolve. Boruto has the resolve that he knows he has to die. And Kawaki has come with the resolve that he knows he has to kill who they are basically, they're basically brothers at this point. And, Naruto's like, what are you talking about? What's going on? And then this seems like a translation error to me. Boruto says, I'm sorry, Dad. Give my best to Mom and Hima. I think it's supposed to say best wishes to Mom and Himawari. And then he does Gale Palm, pushes Naruto away. And then, are you ready? I take it you're ready. And then he says, this panel, do it, bro, which originally it translated to brother. Again, this is something that they must have changed. And we get this here of Kawaki, going through and just impaling Boruto with full force, man. And when I got spoiled for what was going to happen in this chapter, because it was all over Twitter, dude. There was no going on Twitter without seeing spoilers. And I was so shocked, and I'm still so shocked on how are they gonna elaborate from this. Obviously Boruto's not gonna stay dead, but I'm just so interested on where this is gonna go from here. But we see everyone's reactions here, and this is one thing I will say about Ikimoto as an artist. I think he puts a lot of drip into his characters. His characters look really dope. But one thing he's always had trouble with throughout the entirety of the Boruto manga is facial expression when it comes to emotion. Right here, Naruto doesn't really look sad, or he just looks kind of shocked, but you would think Naruto seeing his son get killed would be a lot more like than just this face, you know what I mean? But anyway, we see Boruto here on the ground with a giant hole in his chest. And again, Naruto, he doesn't look as sad as he should look about it, but this is where the chapter ends. Now, I have to say, man, this chapter was insane. So there's a few things I want to go over. The first is like kind of the power scaling aspect here. I think it's very clear that Boruto or Borushiki and Kawaki in this form, which people are calling Kawashiki, are, you know, the strongest people right now. Which I know that's going to hurt some of the OG fans, and it hurts me to say too, but that is the case. I've accepted it because eventually at the end of the day, this manga and show is called Boruto, not Naruto anymore. So Borushiki and Kawaki in these forms are stronger than Sage Mode Naruto, because it's even implied here. He says, I was about to kill my own dad, implying that Rasengan that Kawaki absorbed would have killed Naruto. And I completely agree. It doesn't make sense for Naruto to have lost such a big thing such as Kurama and still be able to be on these such high levels of power. It just doesn't make sense. He's still really strong. He would still be able to fight like, you know, limiter, code, and you know, some higher ups. But, you know, if he was to fight Jigen, like if him and Sasuke now were to fight Jigen, it would be even more of a shit stomp than it already was, right? And like they would die in one hit, let's be honest here. And these, we're just in such realms of power that Naruto can't really compete even in Sage Mode. That's just the honest truth, and I know that's hard to accept for a lot of people, but that's just how it is. The other thing I wanted to talk about is, where is it gonna go from here? Because we just seen Kawaki kill Boruto. How is Naruto gonna react to that? Like, what's gonna come from that? You know, Naruto's obviously not going to want Kawaki in his household anymore, which means Kawaki is probably going to, I feel like he's probably gonna go with maybe not Code, but I feel like he's gonna go with Ada and Damon, and Ada and Damon are gonna betray Code, so it's gonna be this hugest clusterfuck of a mess here. That's my prediction for what's gonna happen. Again, it's really hard to predict this show or this manga, because who would have predicted that Boruto was gonna die in this chapter? Who would have predicted that? Nobody. Absolutely no one. He's not gonna stay dead, obviously. There's gonna be some way for him to come back, but they needed, you know, this is a promise that Boruto and Kawaki had kept to each other, and I think it really is very very thematic, you know, very, very beautiful in that sense that it's, you know, two brothers following the same path. But yeah, that was Boruto Chapter 66. Now, there's so much to come from this. I mean, one thing is it possible for Momoshiki to revive from Boruto? Because when Jigen died, Isshiki revived from Jigen, because he was at 100% Otsutsuki-fication, but the reason he didn't do it sooner was because Jigen was an incomplete host, so he couldn't use all of his power for a long period of time. He would die in a couple days. Now, Boruto's at what some people are saying to be like 85%. I feel like it's still 80%. I feel like it hasn't gone up from that. I think the pills just had a little bit of an effect here. Like, the horn didn't grow all the way. Boruto got this kind of Karma 1.5 transformation in Chapter 64. So it's very tricky, right? To kind of predict what's going to happen. But I think it might be possible for Momoshiki to revive from Boruto even at 90% or 80%. And the reason I say that is because we've seen Momoshiki's spirit come back in the previous chapter. We've seen it come back, and we've seen that Momoshiki has no problem anymore in not even at empty chakra. Boruto doesn't need to be at empty chakra anymore. Momoshiki can take over Boruto's body. So he's recovered to this high enough point to where he is able to take over a decent amount, like a lot of Boruto's consciousness, and Boruto's barely able to fight back. I feel like at this point, if he was to revive, he would only be at 80% strength. He would be super weak, but I feel like it would be just a terrible situation, and I feel like more people are gonna die. I wasn't expecting Boruto to die, but I feel like in these next following chapters, I'm assuming the fight's gonna end next chapter, and then the next chapter after that is gonna be the big repercussions, right? We're probably gonna see like Naruto maybe trying to stop Kawaki or something. I can't make predictions. I just have to wait another month. Another month, by the way, to see what happens. But again, that was Boruto Chapter 66, Do or Die. I highly urge you guys to read this manga, man, and keep up with it, because it has been getting into really good territories here. And I couldn't be happier. I think this was just such an unpredicted turnout that it just builds up so many questions for the future. But yes, that is going to be it for this video. I hope you guys did enjoy. And that's all from me today. Peace.